Wow, we're on episode 25 of Elite Heat, the only show you need on Mondays there, John. What is going on, man? How are you doing on this lovely day?
I'm doing really good. I think energy is going to be up for this show. It's going to be a must see 25th episode there, Kevin. Plenty of topics today. We're initially going to do. Well, I won't say what we're initially going to do, but what we've got today is going to be a really fun mixed bag of all these relevant, topical, I guess, bits of content for you. It's going to be a plethora of videos rammed into one for our 25th show. Kevin, I can't wait for this. It's going to be a sacrifice.
Absolutely. Can we put over last week's episode first, where we did the Kenny Omega and Roman Reigns debate? I mean, I just thought that was a great episode. No, what did you think?
I gave that a listen. I thought it turned out really good. The objectivity we brought to like the Reigns and Omega, I guess just debate generally, thought it turned out really well. And you guys have supported that really well. Numbers have been looking good. So thank you guys.
Absolutely. I mean, I had a ton of fun making that one. It felt like a real, more of a professional conversation. Because a lot of times we just come out here and we make jokes. You know, we've done how many of these podcasts have we done that have just been complete jokes? We're like writing characters and writing storylines. It was nice to take a break from that and do like a more serious podcast.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as fun as it is doing, if AEW was a high school, if WWE was a high school, if wrestling was a mall, like we've done a bunch of those fun ones which you guys love as well, which we appreciate a ton. As much as those are fun, those like real in-depth conversations where we bring a kind of point of view to these things that, or at least us personally, haven't really, we don't really hear in the wrestling community. So to be able to bring that to you guys, bring you content that we feel is worth your while. I guess that's the main thing, because all we want to do here is create content that is worth a listen. Because I don't know about you, Kevin, but as far as me personally, I tend to not be able to sit through a wrestling podcast because I find I don't really get much out of them. So I feel like what we do here at Elite Heat, I don't know about your side of things, but I feel as though we bring a podcast that you guys can get something out of and can be entertained by.
Yeah, this is what we do, Maggle. And with that being said, all that dialogue that you had, I'll kind of lay a little bit of a run sheet for what we're going to be talking about in this episode. So I guess this will be like a wrestling news and rumors roundup. We'll talk about like everything that's gone down from the releases that happened last week to Raw ratings, AEW ratings, Andrade debuting, Aleister Black going off on Dave Meltzer and other journalists. Yeah, we got a ton packed into this show, so I'm ready. I don't know where you want to start. Where the hell do you want to start?
Real quick before we get into the topic, I just want to say, you guys can comment down below and let us know. But going forward, if you guys want these to be a bit more of like the topical news and rumor stuff, because myself personally, and you're reasonably similar, I'd say, Kevin, scheduling wise, we're not as available as we once were. It's not as though we're both sitting around all day because there's like a lockdown or there's nothing to do. And, we both can be on Twitter all day giving our opinions on all these different topics, and we're making a video or two every day on our channels. Like, that's not the case. I've uploaded like once in the past week and a half. Kevin's uploaded like maybe twice, so this is a good opportunity for us to really get our thoughts on things, entertain you guys, all these relevant trending topics. So that's enough of me talking, Kevin. I'll pass the baton back to you. Start us off somewhere.
Yeah, I'll just address a few things. Like, yeah, scheduling's been different for us. I mean, my knee is all healed and I'm kind of back to life, and that's great, back to work and whatnot. So we might be late with some Elite Heats. We might be the only show you need on Tuesdays now because our schedules are just really going to be kind of crazy now. So, yeah, with that being said, let's get to it. I guess we'll talk about the hot topic of the week, and that's the releases. So WWE had their latest cuts. The rumors are going out there that these were all budget cuts. Apparently, WWE, they're going back on the road and they need to cut back costs so they can afford to pay for the trucks and the production teams and all that good stuff. So they cut Braun Strowman, Buddy Murphy, Aleister Black, Lana, and Santana Garrett. Now, I know what you're thinking. Who is Santana Garrett? I honestly don't know who Santana Garrett is. Are you familiar with her work at all?
I thought you just forgot Ruby Riott. That's jokes.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah,
Riott. Yeah, that shows how notable Ruby Riott is. But nonetheless, Santana Garrett. yeah, just one of the 400 women Triple H has signed to NXT. I mean, if we're being real, that's what she is. So I'm not gonna fake outrage over Santana Garrett. Quite frankly, I'm not gonna fake outrage about any of these. Now, Kevin, in the wake of these releases, you uploaded a video about them to the Elite Heat channel, which, might add, you did a mighty fine job with. You covered it really well. When it comes to my thoughts on the releases, I'll quickly give a couple thoughts and throw back to you. I think the way the wrestling community handles releases, and really the way the community handles even like someone losing a championship and then in the weeks and months that follow, I think it's kind of comical. Like, Braun Strowman gets released, and people who were bashing him and saying he sucks and he can't wrestle for literally 4 years are now crying and calling WWE satanic and saying Vince McMahon's a heartless devil and how could Vince McMahon? Like, just, there's no consistency here. Where does this love come from? It was the same with Tom Phillips. We made a whole video about that, which you guys enjoyed, I'd fair say. And Tom Phillips got released, Kevin. People acted as though Vince McMahon went to Tom Phillips' house and shot his loved ones. Like, the way people were freaking out, calling Vince Satan over releasing Tom Phillips. Like, get over it. Like, these things happen. It's a business. Like, my God. So, yeah, what do you think?
Bro, people were treating Tom Phillips like he was the second coming of Jim Ross. And I'll propose a simple theory. Maybe if you would have treated Tom Phillips the way you treated him after he got released for the prior 5 to 6 years that he was on WWE TV every single week, maybe he wouldn't have got released. There's a thought.
Well, Kevin, it comes back to this whole theory of you don't know what you have till it's gone. Okay, Tom Phillips, we'll just quickly close the Tom Phillips example and then move on to the releases that are actually a bit more relevant. Phillips was literally a competent, he was a voice. And that's all he was. And people are treating him, as you say, like he's Prime JR, like he's Gorilla Monsoon, Jesse the Body, like when he was Vince on commentary. Like, no, this is a voice. And as a result, this bleeds into these current releases. Strowman, Murphy, Aleister Black, Lana, Santana Garrett, Ruby Riott. Mainly Strowman and Aleister Black, particularly because they're the ones that actually got some kind of TV time in the past couple of years, and well, Lana as well, but mainly Strowman and Aleister Black. People don't care about them when they're there, and the only people who do are these, like, I'll be nice at this, these very diehard fans on Twitter who have Aleister Black profile pictures. Outside of those people, no one really cares about these people. And they get released, and it's outrage, Kevin. It's vitriol. Like, your Twitter, Kevin, walk us through this one. Your Twitter was just blowing up when these people got released.
Yeah, they were blowing up because I was on, like, the forefront calling out these people. I was like, oh, here comes the fake Braun Strowman fans, and I was just getting attacked, violently attacked, verbally. Like, people like, oh my God, Braun Strowman, he's this, he's that. I've loved Braun Strowman from the very beginning when he was a part of the Wyatt family. No, you didn't. Nobody did. Nobody did. Nobody liked him at all. Like, people kind of liked him in 2017, 2018. I'll give you that. People liked him, like, during the feud with Roman because they hated Roman so much. And admittedly, I thought Braun could have been a star. And then I saw him lose to Brock at No Mercy, and I was like, all right, that's it. WWE clearly has no faith in this guy. And I cut bait, and I just moved on. And then it just spiraled and kept snowballing, and then he's winning a tag team title with a 10-year-old boy. He's getting slime on Kayla Braxton. It just got worse and worse, and everyone kind of collectively started hating him. And then now he gets released, and they're like, oh, Braun was on the best run of his career. He did all this in Raw Underground. Oh, he was so good. He was so good in WrestleMania against Shane McMahon. It's like I think the Smart Buster said this in a recent live stream. The idea was the Shane feud where they were presenting Braun Strowman as special needs. It was to bury him on his way out. But really, like, what is that going to do? Nobody cares. Like, Braun Strowman, it doesn't matter if they buried him or if he left as WWE champion. He's going to show up on Impact, and people are going to care for 1 week. They'll watch Impact for 1 week. And then they'll realize, oh, wait, the show sucks. And they'll stop watching, regardless of Braun Strowman being there. Like, Braun Strowman, he's not a name like Randy Orton that could move the needle for another company. Braun Strowman's going to go to Impact or New Japan or AEW, and he'll fit in nicely in the coil of things, but he's not going to, like, rewrite stuff, and he's not going to be this big, huge star that's going to draw ratings and really make a swift change. You know.
Oh my God, Kevin. Adam Scherr is in the impact zone. Oh my God. Wow. Are you excited to see Adam Scherr versus W. Morrissey, whatever Big Cass's new name is? Like, honestly, where Strowman goes from here, if he just, retired from wrestling altogether, I think that's probably the best way of going. Like, he can just flounder in Impact and be another name. I mean, sure. Like, he can have good matches with, Kevin, who's even in Impact anymore? Eddie Edwards, is he there? Like, the Impact is that irrelevant that, I don't know.
Yeah, he's going to have good matches with Heath Slater. Have good matches with Heath Slater and Tommy Dreamer there, pal.
God almighty. Like, that's just... maybe Adam Scherr will bump Impact's ratings from 40,000 viewers on a Twitch live stream to 45,000 viewers. Like, I don't know. Yeah. We're wishing Strowman all the best. Just wishing all these people got released best as far as a mental health perspective, because this can be challenging. I mean, Aleister Black seemed in fairly good spirits with his stream, which we'll address in a moment. But yeah, Braun Strowman. I mean, you mentioned that thing with him being buried out the door. I mean, that's a great point. If he wasn't in the WWE title match 2 weeks ago at Backlash, that kind of overrides that. So I don't know what they were and what they're going for with Braun. Bury him on his way out, even though he throws the owner's son off the top of a cage and nearly kills him at Mania and beats him. And then he goes into a WWE title match and is feuding with Lashley and McIntyre, the number 2 and the number 3 guys in the company. So, okay, that's logic for you. But Strowman's gone. Will I miss him? Not really. I mean, at this point, realistically in pro wrestling, if Reigns just retired altogether, I'd miss him. But outside of that, I hardly would miss anyone. So, yeah, that's where I'm at, Kevin. What about you?
Well, here's the reality on Braun Strowman. The guy has been in Forbes' list for the highest earners in WWE for the last 5 or 6 years. He's got a ridiculous ironclad contract. He was reportedly making $3.5 to $4 million a year since 2016. What is Braun Strowman bringing that kind of revenue back to WWE? Is he moving merch? Is he driving Peacock and WWE Network subscriptions? So I could kind of see why Vince would look at that and be like, yeah, we can't keep paying you that. So maybe what happens is Braun Strowman comes back for less money to WWE, and he's not gone for that long. That could happen, right? What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. And can I just give you a fun fact with Braun Strowman? This is some live information for you. Braun Strowman's arm wrestling contest on Raw with Bobby Lashley from 2019 has 127 million YouTube views. Wow. That is more views than AEW's top 20 YouTube channel videos combined. You hear that? Yeah. So Braun Strowman is a clear draw. So he made a name for himself because of that. His big strongman segments were notable because of that. Him pushing over things was cool accordingly. But when you're looking at your books, when you're looking at how much money you're paying people, and he has these, high 7-figure contracts, if you're going to go back on the road, it makes sense. If you don't got plans for Braun Strowman, I mean, fair play. You can cut him, I guess. So, yeah.
Right. I don't want to make this about Braun Strowman, so I guess we can move on to other names.
Redneck kick. Let's move on.
Yeah, I want to talk about Lana real quick because the outrage surrounding Lana is just ridiculous. This woman, she's been in main storylines on WWE TV since she came up with Rusev. And then she was doing the story with Bobby Lashley. Then she was doing the stuff with Naomi. She's a TikTok star. She's getting paid from TikTok. She was on Total Divas for 5 seasons. So she made her fair share of money. I don't think she's hurting for cash. And plus, if she doesn't want to wrestle again, she could just be a model. She could go model, or she can do whatever the hell she wants. She can keep being a TikTok influencer. Lana has made a big enough name and enough money outside of WWE that she doesn't really need to be in WWE. That one was probably a mutual release where she was like, yeah, I'll just go to AEW and I'll take a 7-figure check from Tony Khan to go stand next to Miro every week on Wednesday. People say, oh my God, I can't believe this poor Lana. No, she's fine. Maybe someone like Santana Garrett or Aleister Black that didn't have the luxuries to be on Total Divas every season for the past 5 years, just collecting checks Yeah, you can feel bad for someone like that. But I'm not gonna sit here and feel terrible for Lana, the person. You know?
Oh yeah, but Kevin, this winds back to the whole kind of point we're making. How horrible of WWE could they get rid of Lana? Disgusting. Like it just. Why is this a thing? Well, actually, we know why. It's because WWE is successful. So any chance people can get to underpin them, to undermine them, say bad things about them, get angry at them, that's what people will do. Because that's just, I guess, how it works. WWE are successful. People, for some reason, want to hate it, and then they just do this accordingly. This gives people ammunition to just slander WWE, give themselves views, relevancy, attention, etc. So. I guess that's the best way I can put it. I mean, would you think that's fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Then people saying, "Oh, Lana could have been used better." Like, stop pretending like you were a fan of Lana's wrestling before she got released. Everyone hated Lana. She was in the same boat as the Iconics. Oh, Lana can't wrestle. Why is Lana wrestling for the women's title? Why is Lana in the ring with this person, that person? Now, whatever. Okay, moving on. Now, Aleister Black.
No, we can't move on real quick.
Go ahead.
These are the same people who, when Eva Marie has a vignette on Raw, cry on Twitter and say how horrible it is. But then when Lana gets released, oh my god, it was gross, she got misused, she had so much more potential in WWE, she should have been used as a wrestling talent more. How dare they? What are these double standards? Why is this a thing? Like, can we just be consistent, please? It's just, dude. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Let's talk about Aleister Black. Yeah, Aleister Black, I think, was the second most surprising name behind Braun Strowman. I genuinely was caught off guard by the Braun Strowman release. I saw Aleister Black getting released. I just didn't think it would be, a month after he made his return on SmackDown. I didn't think it would come that quick. Like he was literally doing this gimmick where he's talking about Game of Thrones dragons. And then 3 weeks later, he's released before he's supposed to get this quote-unquote big push. So it was a little bit shocking considering the circumstances, but overall, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm surprised that Aleister Black got released. I mean, his wife got released for supporting a union and having an OnlyFans account. So, you know how petty WWE is. They're going to punish the other spouse that's remaining. So I wasn't caught off guard at all by him being released. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was... Well, it was a little bit surprising they just released him, but in the wake of it, I wasn't horribly offended. Because, personally speaking, I remember making videos and mentioning this in videos throughout 2020 about how Aleister Black should be used better. Mm-hmm. And, I genuinely thought that. I thought when, in the first half of 2020, he was being booked by Paul Heyman, as Heyman was running Raw as, the executive producer, and everything was going well. Black was getting wins. Aleister Black beat Bobby Lashley in 6 minutes at WrestleMania. Can you believe that? Aleister Black was going along fine. Bruce Pritchard comes along. Bruce Pritchard, understandably so, doesn't see it in Aleister Black, because when you objectively strip away everything from Aleister Black, he is a NXT dark gimmick who's not the greatest on the microphone. Yes, he has a cool finisher, cool presence, and cool entrance. So there's definitely clear, objective positives to Aleister Black. There's Aleister Black, a guy who is just, oh my god, this is a surefire future Hall of Famer. This guy screams main event, like a Roman Reigns, for instance. No, he's a good talent. But Kevin, look, he got released. I mean, he'll go to AEW. He'll fit in just fine. We'll have Tommy End is now all elite. We can guarantee we'll see that. So.
Yeah, he'll be fine in AEW. He'll probably be one of the few signees that will fit in with what AEW is trying to do, because they need somebody with charisma and larger than life potential. Because that Aleister Black, he adds a different presence about him than, say, an Andrade or an Ethan Page or a Brian Cage, some of these guys that they've signed. Aleister Black can come in and he can kind of command a crowd in a way that I don't think a lot of guys in AEW necessarily can. I'm not saying he's going to be like the second coming of Chris Jericho or Sting, but you get what I'm going for. And then, I've been told for years, literally since he started in NXT, that, Aleister Black's going to be a main eventer. And then there was a few with Velveteen Dream he had in NXT. Oh my God, Aleister Black, he's going to come up. He's going to be a main eventer. He's going to break the NXT curse. He's going to be this. He's going to be that. And I personally never saw it in him. I was never really a big Aleister Black guy. I could appreciate some of the in-ring stuff that he did. The Black Mass is a cool move. some of the MMA stuff he did. I appreciate that. But I personally never saw anything in Aleister Black. I never really did. Like, yeah, aside from like his entrance in NXT, but I was watching that knowing that he's not going to be able to do that on Raw. Then Vince is not going to let him have a 5-minute entrance, like with all this pompous circumstance on Raw. It's just not going to happen. Like, he'll probably get that in AEW, but I don't know. That was just, I guess, my general thoughts on the Aleister Black character over the years. How did you feel about Aleister? Like, not just 2020 Aleister, but Aleister Black as a whole in WWE.
Yeah, I thought, the NXT stuff was, good. And then it's transitioning that to the main roster where you need to have the personality, you need to have a presence, you need to have a character. Because, because this is the thing. If you're Bruce Pritchard, you're Vince, describe Aleister Black. What about this guy is going to have, is going to work in a program with a Roman Reigns? What about Aleister Black is going to really click? Okay, his gimmick when he came back in April 2021 was that he's reading, I guess, Game of Thrones books and he's going to slay the Ender Dragon or something. Like how are you going to, if you're one-on-one face-to-face with Roman Reigns, what about that is going to be a believable threat to Roman? I'm going to slay you like I slayed the dragon in Mortal Kombat. It's not going to work. So in that sense, he was always limited as far as a main event WWE position. I think Aleister Black makes an amazing mid-card guy. And I think they could have used him as such, but chose to release him. And that's WWE's choice. In AEW, it'll probably be a similar thing to Andrade, who we'll talk about in a moment, Kevin, where they bring him in and it's like, oh my God, Andrade Elite is all elite. Or in this case, oh my God, Tommy End is all elite. And it's like, okay. And then he just fits right into, he falls into the shuffle, Kevin. He's just going to be another guy. He could be the next Exalted One for the Dark Order if you wanted to go there. If not, fair play. He could lead another stable. Who knows? But yeah, I think it's a weird to say about Aleister Black.
Absolutely, yeah. Buddy Murphy is the next guy that I think we need to talk about. This is another one. Oh, Murphy was criminally underused. Vince McMahon would not know talent if it slapped him in the face. Because people on Twitter and other social media forums, they know more about booking and star power and all this than Vince McMahon. So there's that.
Kevin, really quickly, these people, if they had it their way, instead of Hulkamania running wild and making WWE disgusting amounts of money in the 80s and the early 90s, you would have had WrestleMania main events be Ricky Steamboat versus Tito Santana because they have better in-ring work rate. You would have had these matches where it's, oh my God, Rick Martel versus the Blue Blazer in the main event of SummerSlam. It's like, get out of here, dude. Vince McMahon doesn't know talent. No, he knows main event talent, and he's not the best at using mid-card talent. How dare he? Dude, honestly. But yeah, nonetheless, go on with your point. Go on.
Yeah, you got Buddy Murphy, who, what's the most thing of notoriety that Buddy Murphy has done in the last year? Seth Rollins reading his DMs with Rey Mysterio's daughter. Realistically, that's the only thing I can think of. And then if you think back further, 2 years, he had that one match with Roman Reigns on SmackDown. It was like, okay, this is a good match. But then we all thought it'd be Buddy Murphy's coming out party, where Buddy Murphy's going to establish himself as an upper mid-card talent. And no, the reality of it is, Buddy Murphy was a good wrestler for a while. He had a good run. He was in WWE for a long time. He goes back to, what? There was the Blake and Murphy tag team where we got introduced to Alexa Bliss in NXT. So he's been around for quite a while, and he's had a hell of a run. He was a cruiserweight champion. He was one of the faces of 205 Live. And then they tried their hand with him on SmackDown and Raw, and it just didn't work out for whatever reason. He's just another one of those high-flying, great technicians. There's really not much else about Buddy Murphy that we're going to be missing on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah. The only thing I can use to differentiate Buddy Murphy from, Ricochet, Humberto Carrillo, Mustafa Ali, Aleister Black, this laundry list of guys who've all fallen in this category, Finn Balor's, these types, is that Murphy had the better physique and he was Australian. And even then, his nationality is a bit different, okay? And, Like, what's Vince gonna like? This is the thing with Murphy. You could have given him any sort of a character, have him develop something, work on a character. Instead, as you mentioned there, he spent 2020 having his DMs read by Seth Rollins and taking pins in tag matches involving Seth Rollins, where we had Rey Mysterio and Kevin Owens pinning Murphy every week for 7 months. And then what? Where's he been? Like, what's he done, Kevin? It's just, he's the best kept secret. Okay, you're gonna, like, and it's like Seth Rollins coming out in 2015 saying, I'm the future, guys. Like, we'll do something about it. Give us something to believe that. Like, you can't just keep saying it. Do something. Act upon it. It's like with Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews for 4 years, Kevin. It was like, oh, he's a great potential talent. He has so much potential. Good. Well, do something. Like, stop saying it. Do. Like, I don't know, Kevin. Murphy never, I don't know. The best he did was have his DMs read, Kevin. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be great in Impact in a few months or wherever he winds up. More power to him. Like, it's sad that he got cut, but I mean, the reality of it is, like I said, he was just another good in-ring mat technician. That's basically what he was. I guess quickly we'll talk about Ruby Riott. I even forgot that she was included on this list. People were just anxiously awaiting the reunion of the Riott Squad, but that's cut short, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't know. Like, what is it?
Like, legit. The only thing with Ruby Riott, Kevin, is even worth mentioning is that Ruby Riott and I guess Liv Morgan mainly, but like Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan in a similar position to like Candice LeRae for like literally over a year, where literally every day you can't go on Twitter or wrestling Twitter for more than about 3 minutes without seeing people go, oh my God, I need this. And there's a picture of like a Photoshop picture of Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan with the women's tag titles. And first off, the women's tag titles mean nothing, so why do you care? And second off, is this just some cataclysmic, oh my God thing that just needs to happen? Like, the world's going to keep turning. It doesn't matter if Ruby Riott's the women's tag champion or whether she's not. Kevin, just who cares? Well, clearly these people on Twitter do, but like, why? Why? Because we need Ruby Riott to have the title. Why? Kevin, that's the best question you can ask a wrestling fan. Why? Like, I don't know.
Because she's Ruby Riott. That's all it is, I mean, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, moving on. Let's talk about AEW. The AEW, they had their Friday night Dynamite that was headlined by wrestling megastar Andrade El Idolo's surprising debut at Daly's Place. And the main event of that show was Dustin Rhodes in a bull rope match. I can't remember who his opponent was, but yeah. So there was that. That's what headlined last week's Dynamite. This Dynamite was not the best. Like, it's true when I go on my timeline on Twitter and people are bashing it on Twitter. Like, I saw a lot of people talking about this Dynamite in a negative light, and it reflects in the ratings. The ratings are just not good. My question, really, the only question I have for you is, who thought it was a good idea to have Andrade debut on this show? When you're going to have your lowest amount of eyeballs, you're not really trying from a creative perspective because you're just trying to limp to next month when you're going back on tour. Why have Andrade debut in like a random middle of the heart of the summer Dynamite?
Yeah, I guess that's a question we've got to ask the brilliant wrestling minds of Tony Khan, Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega. That one I don't know. By all reports, Andrade has a bit of creative pull in his contract, so maybe that was his idea to come out at 11 p.m. on a Friday night in front of 462,000 live viewers. Clearly, that's the play, because my God, Andrade El Idolo's all elite. Like, okay, cool. He's a guy. He's going to have some good matches. I saw someone tweet in full caps, Andrade versus Ray Phoenix, ! And that was spanned about 15 times in one tweet. I know people have a lot of Andrade El Idolo dream matches, but really, Kevin, to answer your question, the main reason they did this is because AEW has a history of the Dynamite following a pay-per-view. They like to debut someone. They like to do something shocking. I remember following Double or Nothing last year was FTR, and I forget the specifics for each post pay-per-view, whatever. I forget the specifics since then, but generally every Dynamite after pay-per-view, something big happens. So In this case, Kevin, it was your favorite wrestler and everyone's favorite wrestler, Charlotte Flair's husband, Andrade El Idolo, pal. Get excited.
Yeah, we're supposed to be excited. I mean, I realistically, he came out and he said, "I'm here at AEW to prove that I'm the best wrestler in the world." That was the basis of his promo. He's got Vicky Guerrero with him, which is great. Vicky Guerrero talked him up, talked a big game about him. But now we're not going to see Andrade on Dynamite for the next, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Like, that's just kind of how it goes with AEW. That's the formula. AEW, we got to have Cody, we got to have the Bucks, we got to have Kenny on every show, and then we fill in from there. They have no real plan long-term for Andrade. He'll probably be on YouTube shows for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And then he'll be on the pre-show of whatever Fight for the Fallen or whatever kind of pay-per-view AEW decides to do, or television pay-per-view, as you will, if you will. And that's it. And then he'll be on the pre-show of All Out. Like, realistically, what is Andrade going to do? And I think the fans and AEW loyalists are kind of, how do I phrase it? They're conditioned to expect this now from AEW. We've seen it time and time again with Christian, Brian Cage, some other notable additions where they come in, they have a big debut, and then we don't see or hear from them for 3 to 6 weeks, and then they're on a pre-show of pay-per-view or a random match on the undercard, and then in 2 to 3 months' time, they're randomly getting a push on Dynamite all of a sudden. So I don't know what Andrade is going to do.
But are they conditioned to that though? Because I swear every time, Christian Cage is all elite. Oh my God, Miro is all elite. Oh, Andrade El Idolo is all elite. Like, all these ex-WWE names, they make their debut on AEW Dynamite. There's this big pop and circumstance. Oh my God, think of all the great matches this guy can have. And to that, I just think, how many matches have you seen? Like, it's just moves and moves. I don't know. Kevin, maybe this whole thing isn't for me. I don't know. Like, seeing this big freak out of, oh my God, Andrade versus this guy. I'm like, you're going to see the same moves regardless of who's in the match. It's like with the Young Bucks. Oh my God, Young Bucks versus this team. I can't wait to see it. It's been the same as the other 25 Young Bucks matches we've seen in the past year. Like, I don't know, Kevin. But yeah, to give my closing thoughts on Andrade El Idolo joining All Elite Wrestling there, John. My main thought is, okay, like the fan base for AEW, the hardcore AEW fans, they love it. So I guess that's like the main thing. Is Andrade El Idolo gonna draw in AEW's ratings and save them from 462,000 on a Friday night up to 550,000 on a Friday night? I doubt it, because I mean, Kevin, you mentioned it there. What's Andrade El Idolo gonna do? We're gonna get, oh my God, Andrade El Idolo in action. And it's going to be AEW Dark Elevation episode 15. Like, that's about it, really.
Yeah, realistically, I mean, that's where we're at. And then while we're at it, we'll talk about AEW's numbers. So They did 462,000 viewers, and that was a Friday night at 10 p.m. slot Eastern time. So that was just kind of that's a tough spot. They're coming on after SmackDown. The NBA playoffs are hot and heavy right now. So they're just kind of fighting for relevancy, so to find like some kind of niche. But I did read, I believe it was Cage Side Seats that I found the article, that the DVR numbers have been up since the Friday night Dynamite started. So that's good. So around like 200,000 to 300,000 people on the back end are watching AEW 3, 4, 5, 6 days later. So that's positive. I guess that's one way to look at it. Right? I mean,
that's just their hardcore 700 to 800,000 viewer audience. We know that already.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
I mean, not a big deal, but it makes the 400,000 number look a little bit better, because when people see that, they're like, "Oh my God, AEW's dying. WWE's going to buy them in 2 months," and that might not be the case just yet. Like, I don't think we're getting to that point with AEW where they're going to need to cut bait at all. I don't think we're even close to that.
No, it's just they have their 700 to 800,000 American viewers who will watch them in some way, shape, or form because of the time slot, Friday 10 p.m., which is an awful time slot. Because of that, they're going to get 400 to 500,000 people watching them live, which this week I think they'll be closer to 400,000 considering the card they've got for this week's Dynamite. So I'll get around 400 to 500 live, and then you mentioned those DVR numbers there, 200,000 to 300,000. So that balances out to around 600,000 to 800,000 viewers, which is basically their audience anyway. So yeah, I mean nothing overly groundbreaking or shocking. People are crying that AEW is going to die and that AEW is on its last leg. Just please, just why, dude? Stop, you're trying to paint your own agenda. Like, come on.
Yeah, just let those 700,000 people be happy, man. I mean, I watched Dynamite on DVR. I wasn't gonna Friday night at 10 p.m. I don't have time to watch Dynamite at that time of day. So I watched it on DVR. I caught it. I thought it was an interesting show, to say the least.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was just an interesting show. Like, I'm watching Dustin Rhodes have a bull rope match in the main event, and I'm like, are we in 1985? Like, why is this main eventing an AEW show? I can't even remember who his opponent was. I'm gonna try to find that here in a second.
It was Nick Comoroto, was it? I believe.
Yeah, Nick Comoroto. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, that's
he's one of QT Marshall's cronies there, John.
So Kevin, you watched it. Can you please describe Nick Comoroto for me?
He's a guy that is a part of QT Marshall's factory. That's all I know. Like, QT Marshall trained him.
What's Nick Comoroto part? Is it a look thing? Does he have good promos? Is he great in the ring? Like, anything else about him?
There was no real takeaway. The only thing I could think of is literally the only thing I was thinking about watching this match is, why is this the main event of Dynamite? Like, why wasn't Andrade segment the main event? Why are we watching this? Like, I didn't really learn anything about Nick Comoroto. He's okay in the ring, but so is everyone in AEW. I didn't really learn much other than the fact that him and QT Marshall have been friends for like 8 years, and they're both from New Jersey. That's basically all I learned about Nick Comoroto.
Okay. Well, okay, interesting. So, well, do that interaction what you will. I think it's the other thing to mention on AEW. I mean, do you want to talk about Britt Baker's championship celebration? Because, I mean, the AEW women's division at this point is, without sounding like a sieve, probably my favorite part of the show, considering who's there. But at the same time, this segment, Kevin, objectively was. I mean, what do you think? Before I give a critique, what do you think?
What is there to say about these celebrations? Like, really, they are what they are. I don't expect much. I just don't. I don't expect much. And like you, I think the women's division is in AEW is in a much better state than it's ever been. But yeah, I mean, it was a championship celebration. That's really my only takeaway on it. I'm more curious of your thoughts.
Yeah, I saw it. And like, these championship celebrations, usually, I mean, it goes one of two ways, depending on if the wrestler's a face or a heel. If they're a face, there's going to be a bunch of balloons, and it's going to be, oh my God, you deserve it. There's going to be that. Those ones are never entertaining, really, because we've seen them to death. I think the heel ones can be interesting. You can get a good angle out of it. This one wasn't really, though. Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was literally Britt Baker trying to, like, make fun and talk down to, like, nerds, or just generally for, like, a couple of minutes. I'm like, okay. Yeah, okay.
That's basically what it was. Yeah, her just kind of inserting her dominance as, like, the new woman in charge of AEW.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, it wasn't a great segment, but I mean, I prefer that to, I don't know, Shayna having a random 2-minute match every week for 11 months, so it is what it is. It's fine. Hopefully her reign's really good. I think Baker as champion opens up a world of possibilities. I think the fact that she wasn't AEW Women's Champion from the jump, instead they had Riott and Nyla Rose and Shayna hold it. Like, I think when we look back at AEW, that's going to be like one of the main, that's going to stick out like a sore thumb as far as things AEW stuffed up. Because I think if you had Britt Baker as Women's Champion from the get-go, and you had compelling storylines and angles with her from the jump, I think the women's division's in a much better place, and in turn, AEW's in a much better place. So those are my thoughts. Do with that what you will, Kevin. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we kind of hop off the AEW train. Do you want to talk, while we're talking about ratings, do you want to talk about Raw's ratings or SmackDown or NXT or any of those ratings?
Yeah, ratings are down. I think that's the objective, nicest, easiest way of putting it. Ratings are down. People aren't really interested.
They're down because there was a baseball game on ESPN.
For God's sake. Could we have this conversation, Kevin? The audience who loves NXT and AEW is not the same audience who watches NBA and baseball games. It's not the same audience. It's just, there might be a couple thousand people, but not tens of thousands of people. Like, it's just, that's a joke. Like, oh my God, Raw got a 1.42 because there was an NBA game between the 2 seed and the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. Like, yeah, that was a 25-point blowout by quarter time. Like, even if people went to watch it, they would have just tuned back into the wrestling show within 20 minutes. They would have seen that there's no competition between two teams. Like, this is where, like, logic comes into it, Kevin, which, oh my God, there was an NBA game on. Okay. Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the NBA playoffs and NFL and MLB and all this, they've been going on for as long as we can remember. That's not a new thing, is it?
Right, correct. You know, the NBA has been going on for many years. This is not brand new. The NBA did not just start yesterday, and now they're taking away thousands upon thousands and millions upon millions of Raw's viewers. It's not the case. And how many people are flipping the channel to go watch like the Cubs versus the Marlins on ESPN like that? It's just not the case.
Kevin, in 1998, when MJ was in the finals versus the Jazz, and all those games were drawing 20 plus million viewers, and his final game drew like 30 million viewers, Raw was getting about 7 plus million people watching every week. Nitro getting about 5 million.
Right.
So that whole thing's not an excuse. Nowadays, less people watching the NBA than ever before. Like, that last year was the lowest rated finals ever. This year, the ratings aren't that much better. Some games do good, and mainly ones involving LeBron, but LeBron's not there anymore. He got kicked out of the playoffs because him and his team sucks, and he walks out on his team. So as a result, now we're getting just random playoff games like, oh my God, Atlanta Hawks versus Knicks game 5. Oh, Atlanta won again. Oh, that's why AEW's ratings suck. It's because of that. Like, you know, it's a cop-out excuse. That's all it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about Raw and SmackDown for a second. SmackDown particularly is the one I guess is worrisome the most. SmackDown at one point was consistently doing 2 million viewers, give or take 2.5, 2.3 around there. Now they're just 1.8, 1.7, 1.9. It's just going down and down and down. And I think a little bit of that is just the Roman Reigns fatigue. There's just not enough, maybe I should say Roman Reigns fatigue, but there's just a lack of credible stories left to tell with Roman Reigns. Like, they're finally pivoting to the Mysterio family, but like, what have we seen Roman doing? We've had Roman feuding with Daniel Bryan. We've had a feuding with Cesaro. We've had a feuding with Kevin Owens, and that's just It's not captivating TV. Like, it's kind of rinse, wash, repeat. You know, okay, you insert indie guy. Indie guy tells Roman Reigns that he can't wrestle as good as him. Okay, and that's the story. Like, that's what we got. And Roman Reigns says, "Acknowledge me as your tribal chief." There's only a certain amount of just a certain amount of things that Roman can do. Roman can't carry Daniel Bryan and Rey Mysterio into an interesting program. He can't do it all by himself. You know, we need some help from the supporting cast. Then on top of that, aside from Roman's segment, the rest of the show sucks. I think I can say that pretty confidently. You know, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. The roster's paper thin on SmackDown. That's the thing you'll realize. Like, you go to the SmackDown roster page on Wikipedia, everyone there's being used, and it's all in the same storyline segments every week. Kevin, I'll use Apollo Crews for an example. Apollo Crews, really good character, really entertaining. But the issue is, because you have literally like 4 mid-card guys, you have to have Crews versus Big E having matches every week for like 5 months. Now you've moved on to Kevin Owens. We're getting Crews versus Owens like every second week. And that's the IC title picture. We've got a women's title picture. Okay, Sasha Banks isn't really in the picture, so it's just Belair and Bayley having promos each week. Oh, the tag team division. Okay, now the tag teams are more interesting, Kevin. I think we can both agree. You've got the Usos teaming up. You've got the Mysterios as champions. Tag teams are better. That's a plus. But at the same time, this winds back to our tribal god, Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, what's he doing? He's having these segments, these promos. He comes out, hey, indie guy number 1, acknowledge me. I'm the tribal chief. I'm the head of the table. I'm the reason this show gets ratings. I am the WWE. WWE's mine. Like, okay. You know, like, I completely get the Reigns fatigue. Personally, I think the guy's dope, but as you say, it's not a problem with him. It's a problem with basically everything else. Because when Reigns is having a compelling feud like with Jey Uso, ratings are at 2.3. But now they're at 1.7. And a lot of that is because of the Reigns fatigue, because of his bad opponents, and because SmackDown's roster, Kevin, is paper thin there, John.
Absolutely. And Roman deserves part of the blame too. We can't put it all on the surrounding cast. I should correct myself. If Roman Reigns was as great as some people have you believe, that would parlay into ratings, into merchandise, into general interest in the wrestling product again. Like this, there just comes to a point where you have to look at it like, yeah, Roman's not the guy that WWE thought he would be 9 years ago. He's just, I don't think he's ever going to be capable of being a true number one. Like realistically, Roman's best role is probably like a lead heel. Like imagine if you take this heel Tribal Chief Roman and you insert him into like 2007 into the John Cena, Randy Orton, Shawn Michaels, that main event scene with Edge. Throw Roman in there. Roman would be a great number 2 or number 3 guy. But I just think the bottom line is Roman is not like an all-time great performer. Yeah, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. He's 36 years old. He's been in WWE. He's main evented 3 WrestleManias, 4 WrestleManias. He's been in WWE 12 years at this point. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen at some point where Roman's going to show the capability of becoming like a top 10, top 12, all-time great Mount Rushmore guy. I don't think Roman has that in him, to be honest.
Yeah, most definitely. And that brings itself back to the problem we spoke about in episode 24, that whole thing with his legacy and whether you can definitively call him a top 25 guy. Because as we say there, you plonk him back in the main event scene 15 years ago, and he's a top heel who a babyface like Batista gets through before he can have the match with the number one heel in the company, maybe insert a heel name here, like Edge, for instance. Like, that's what Roman Reigns would have been. He wouldn't have been the definitive number one guy. And if you objectively look at it, the fact that Roman Reigns, after all that's happened with him, all these failed main event matches, main event runs and pushes, the fact that Roman Reigns nowadays is having such success, it's amazing. I think Reigns is awesome. As we've covered in countless videos, Kevin, that you compare what's around him, it's like, okay, Reigns is clearly the best one out of this group, but this group is not good. So as a result, ratings are where they are, Kevin. We're getting 1.75 and 1.8 on SmackDown now. Raw's getting 1.4. It's so bad.
Oh, it's awful. Yeah. Like Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, they're great top guys. They're great. They're great top guys. Maybe if you end the brand split and you have Roman and McIntyre have like on and off feuds, kind of like Austin Rock did, maybe that would generate a little bit more buzz. Because then it would be 2 guys that are like larger than life talents going at it. But still, at the end of the day, that's not going to bring like 5-6 million viewers. It's not going to create some uproar in the world, in the mainstream. People are going to be paying attention to wrestling again. Like, that's just not the case. But I'll move on from SmackDown. We talk
about that really quickly, just like the brand split, because this is one of these things I've seen a lot, especially we're talking about ratings, we're talking about just the current product. Ending the brand split seems like a move that it just needs to be made. Because I mentioned SmackDown's paper-thin roster. That roster is just the same combinations of people every week in the same spots. It gets tiresome for anyone. Raw is just... The roster isn't even bad. It's just the fact that the show's 3 hours, and we've gone problems with Raw to death at this point. So most shows have clear issues. Why not merge them? And then that way you have... ideally you put Raw to 2 hours, ideally. But that way, when you have a 3-hour Raw, you got all this different talent. So that instead of a 15-minute long match between Mandy and Dana and, I don't even know at this point, Shayna and whoever, instead of that, you actually have one segment features Randy Orton, and you care because Randy Orton's on screen to an extent. Then there's a Drew McIntyre segment, and the segment after that's a Roman Reigns segment with the Usos. Segment after that is a segment involving Edge, and Cena's in the segment. Like, that way the show can feel like, oh, here's a star, here's a star, here's a star. Instead, what it is, okay, well, the star on each show, McIntyre and Reigns, they're going to have 1, maybe 2 segments, which will be good, but the rest of the show is just going to be underwhelming filth. So why should you care to watch?
Yeah. 100%. I agree. Yeah, let's talk about what took place last night on Raw for a minute because I want to get your thoughts. So, the first thing I'll talk about, because we're going to talk about the Shayna Baszler segment. I'm going to ask you about that. But first, we got to talk about Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. This tag team that's taken the internet by storm. This is like everyone's favorite tandem. Personally, I can't stand it. I think it's just awful. It's so bad. You got Riddle. Hey, bro. I'm going to take you to Burger King, bro. Once WWE Raw goes back on tour, bro. You're going to go to every Burger King in every city, bro. So, and then Randy Orton's just like, ugh. It's like just grunting. It's just, it's not good. But there was one particular GIF that made its way on the interwebs where Randy Orton's trying not to laugh at Riddle while Riddle's cutting a promo. And it makes it so obvious. Like, Randy Orton can't take the guy serious. Even like Randy Orton, this is like a severe downgrade for what we've seen Randy Orton doing. Randy Orton was doing the best work of his career with Edge just a little over a year ago. And then he was doing this 6-month feud with Bray Wyatt, which was also very good work. And now he's just in a tag team with Matt Riddle. I don't even know what to even say.
Yeah, it's kind of reflecting of like the state of just, I guess, say wrestling. You could say, like, obviously the state of Raw. But yeah, you look where he was. He was in that feud with Edge, where as dead as the Raws were a year ago, there'd be the saving grace of the Edge and Randy Orton promo segment. Like, it'd be 2 hours and 45 minutes of Seth Rollins versus Denzel Dejanet in a 5-minute squash match. But there'd be the saving grace of Randy Orton and Edge having this intense promo where Edge is like, I'm grateful to have every moment in this ring, and I fight, I have grit. And Randy Orton's like, hello, Edge. I do not care about you or your grit. At Backlash, we're going to have the greatest wrestling match ever. Like, that's what Orton would do. And the Bray Wyatt stuff, as hokey as it got, with Alexa Bliss having Black Goose squatting out of the voodoo tiara, as dumb as that got, there was a talking point. You genuinely care. With this, Kevin, I mean, I heard you rant about it in your Raw is Not Good rants, and you mentioned it there. We've got Matt Riddle mentioning Burger King, and Randy Orton's looking at him like as a shoot, being like, really? This is what I'm doing now? Like, as you said, he should have gone to Hollywood when he had the chance. Like, come on.
Yeah, what was he thinking? Like, when the RKO meme went viral in 2008 or 9, he should have left. He started doing acting. He should have got out of like everyone else. He stick around long enough to become Randy Orton. He's 41 years old at this point now. He can't make it in Hollywood. I mean, maybe he can. I don't want to say like there's 95% chance he doesn't make it in Hollywood if he tries. Yeah, he'll get some acting gigs. He can try it, but yeah, what else is he gonna do? We're gonna have 5 more years of these Randy Orton segments because he's still gonna be in good shape at 46, where he's just like he's teaming with whoever the next guy is with like Karrion Kross. He's not in a tag team with Karrion Kross 3 years from now, and they're like going after the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. They're marching out to point at the New Day and tell them how much they suck. Like, what's next for Randy Orton?
Yeah, it's like you can picture in like 2 years they'll finally bring up Tommaso Ciampa to the main roster, and they'll try and sell this like epic Ciampa and Orton feud, and then the two will face off, and you'll see that Orton is legitimately like 8 inches taller than Tommaso Ciampa, because Ciampa's 5'6" and Orton's a legit 6'4", and you'll go, oh, this is what people have been hyping up for 5 years. This. And Randy Orton will just like laugh at Ciampa, and then it'll be like a shoot laugh. And you can tell Orton's just back. He's just collecting a paycheck, doing this wrestling stuff because it makes him a living. He wants to be like the wrestler with like the most longevity in his career. And I guess doing these Rated RK Bro segments where a stoner looks at him and goes, hey, bro, you want to have burgers? And then we can have bro-nuts, bro. Now, I'll throw my flip-flops at him, bro. Like, you got to think Randy Orton, he's coming off the Bray Wyatt feud, the Edge feud, and before that he wasn't really trying for about probably 10 years. But you see all this stuff Orton's done, and this is where he is today, Kevin. Hey, bro, do you want to get a burger, bro? Like, bro, what is this, bro? What is this?
Oh my god. Yeah, this is the guy that main evented in a personal feud with Triple H, WrestleMania 25, headlined that WrestleMania. He had countless feuds with all the top stars of the Ruthless Aggression era. Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Edge, John Cena, Batista, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, then the new era, CM Punk and The Shield, all these guys, Daniel Bryan, and now he's hanging out with Matt Riddle going to Burger King, bro. It's just I guess the devolution of Randy Orton, I guess would be the way to coin the phrase.
I think that's a pretty good way of putting it. And I mean, yeah, it's, as I said, it's reflecting of where Raw's at. Like, even as hokey as that Bray Wyatt stuff was, it was something. Now it's just, Matt Riddle riding a scooter around Randy Orton backstage. It was Randy Orton looking like he wants to kill himself. Like,
yeah, wow. That's where we are. And then while we're on the topic of Raw, I have to ask you your honest thoughts on that closing segment for this week's Raw that saw Shayna Baszler beating up a doll, viciously abusing Alexa Bliss's Lily doll.
Well, I think the timing of it is appropriate because I made the video on my channel about Alexa Bliss and everything that's surrounding her at the moment with this Lily doll. And look, I appreciate WWE is trying to cater to the entertainment side of things. I think the fact that Drew McIntyre and Kofi Kingston had a 30-minute match the week before in the main event, and that Raw drew, I think, the second worst rating all time, I believe, because the rating had a correction. I think the fact that they tried an entertainment segment, Kevin, I think we can both appreciate that. They tried to do an entertaining talking point segment, yeah? But where that falls down is the fact that we have Alexa Bliss playing the role of a 12-year-old girl, which in many senses, like, it works with Bray Wyatt because when he's playing a fun-loving guy, he's still like a 6'3", like, overweight man, so it's not as creepy. But when you have Alexa Bliss doing it, it's like, this is just genuinely like turn off my TV uncomfortable. So Bliss is doing that.
Alexa Bliss is a 29-year-old woman who looks like she just graduated high school. Now she's doing a really bad Harley Quinn cosplay. Like, that's basically what this is. And she looks so young as a person. If you told someone who's never seen wrestling, you showed them a picture of Alexa in her Harley Quinn cosplay, you're like, yeah, this woman is 30 years old. They'd be like, nah, I don't see it. Like, you ask someone, how old does this girl look? They'll probably say, oh, maybe 16, 15. And this is what you're headlining Raw with? Like, it's borderline just creepy. It's unnecessary. I don't know how people can like it. It's weird. Like, that's what we're seeing. And then this 29-year-old woman who is dressed as a 12-year-old is feuding now with a 41-year-old MMA pioneer, a women's MMA pioneer, Shayna Baszler. And this 41-year-old MMA fighter went from legitimately fighting people in a cage for like $20,000, getting yelled at by Dana White. Now she's beating up a Lily doll on TV. And that's where we're at. Go ahead.
Yeah. So with that being said, yeah. So you take that Alexa Bliss, who, I guess the only way I can describe that character is, I guess, I don't even know how to describe it. It's a feigned character, but the character is a feigned for sexual deviancy. It's not a feigned character that we can get behind. It's a feigned for sexual deviancy for deranged perverts. That's the best way I can describe it, because, my God, you've got Shayna Baszler, this 41-year-old, screaming at a doll. And this is something which, Kevin, as you said in your Raw is Not Good rant, this is something that deranged psychopaths in the UK stay up until 4 and 5 a.m. in the morning to watch. People are sitting there at 2:30 a.m., 30 minutes into Raw, thinking, God, I can't see what Raw ends with this week. And this is what they get. A 41-year-old yelling at a doll, stomping on it, and then explosions of fireworks going off on the stage, which, let's be fair, Kevin, if AEW tried this, there'd be some sparklers there. So at least WWE did the production side as well. But nonetheless, there's flames going off. We've got the lighting is all messed up. We've got Alexa's playground set. There's, stuff's happening at the Thunderdome. Screens are changing colors, Kevin. We go backstage and we have Shayna Baszler trying to put couches in front of the door. She's lifting up these, single-person couches, jamming them in front of the door. The lighting's all messed up. She's looking in the mirror. She hears laughter. She sees a doll. She breaks the mirror, and then there's this big pop and circumstance. Oh my god, Kevin! Oh my god! And then we hear a scream, and the show ends, and it hits you that that's a 41-year-old ex-MMA fighter having a mental breakdown over a doll that's being held by someone who legitimately looks 12. And that's the main event of the show that 22 years ago was getting 8 million viewers a week, led by Austin McMahon, and was the biggest thing in pop culture.
Yeah, an MMA pioneer beating up a doll. What is there to talk about? Like, the only initial reaction is just, oh, this show sucks. I'm going to turn it off. I'm never going to watch wrestling again. Like, that's really all that we get now.
Yeah, pretty much. And it makes me think, boy, I remember 9 years ago, as I was just getting into wrestling, and Raw would end with John Cena, the guy who'd been the face of wrestling for the past 7 years, having this insane, massive pull-apart brawl with Brock Lesnar, this UFC and just, icon just generally. And, Lesnar legit punches Cena in the mouth. Cena's like bleeding. And you've got, 400 wrestlers trying to pull them apart. And that's how I grew up watching Raw end. I grew up watching Raw end with CM Punk taking field sobriety tests from Chris Jericho. Punk couldn't walk a straight line, then he smashed a bottle on Jericho, that kind of thing. Right? And then now we're getting this. And it's like, what happened? Like, this is just... If I showed that segment to 15 of my closest friends, I genuinely, despite the fact they're close friends, I'd say half of them wouldn't be friends with me anymore. If I went, this is what I willingly watch every week. And it's stuff like that makes you go, who is this for? Why are they doing this? What's the creative direction here? I've seen, Kevin, a lot of people, because I did that video about Aleister Bliss, people in the comments saying, well, you should give it a chance. This character hasn't even wrestled yet. And, well, that's false. We've seen the young Bliss character wrestle a number of times already. But nonetheless, give it a chance. We saw the Funhouse Bray had a bunch of promos a month before he wrestled. People like that. Okay, it's completely different. As I said, Bray's a 6'2" obese man. Alexa Bliss legitimately looks 11. So, yeah, I don't even know, Kevin. It's just uncomfortable. That's the best way of putting it.
Extremely. It's yeah. I don't want to talk about Raw anymore. It's depressing me. Let's talk about everyone's favorite wrestler that will never return to WWE. CM Punk found his way into the rumors again. Some wrestling fans, they just think that CM Punk's gonna. Oh my God, CM Punk is gonna come back because there's a full crowd now in WWE. There you go. You heard it here at the Elite Heat podcast. CM Punk is coming back at SummerSlam because there's a full crowd. There it is.
Kevin, you know, and the Elite Heat loyal listeners know, CM Punk is the guy who pretty much was the catalyst for getting me into wrestling to begin with. And as someone who's followed this guy for the rest of the way through his WWE career up until January 27th, 2014, when he officially walked out, seeing the past 7.5 years with constant stories just like this, where it's like, oh my God, CM Punk's going to return. What people don't seem to grasp is that Phil Brooks is a realistic thinker. Phil Brooks would turn on an episode of Raw in 2021 and dry heave by watching it. Phil Brooks is not coming back. Phil Brooks is not coming back to AEW. Phil Brooks is not coming back to WWE. Phil Brooks is not coming back to pro wrestling. He did some WWE backstage. He did some work with that. That's all good, Kevin. That was right up his wheelhouse. But at the end of the day, the guy behind the CM Punk character has no passion for wrestling anymore. He's made that abundantly clear countless times, Kevin. But time in and time out, we get this thing over and over again. Okay, I personally gave up on this whole CM Punk's coming back at All Out 2019. He didn't come back for AEW's big show in Chicago, and that was legit the last chance. Now, you're wasting your breath. You're wasting your energy, Kevin. So that's the nicest way I'll put it. Now back to you. I'll pass the baton back to you on this one, pal. Do you want to see CM Punk come back, pal? Give it to us.
Oh, man. I would love it, pal. Like, realistically, I would love it if CM Punk came back. I really would. It would be great for everyone involved. It's great for fans, great for the media, great for content creators.
And the views. Oh, the views would be lovely.
Yeah, and it's great for wrestling, too. Just having a superstar like CM Punk, who I'm sure he still has something left to give. I'm sure he can. He's still relatively young. He can still give something to WWE, and and some wrestlers could learn a lot from him. Like, I just think everyone involved, it would be great for. But the odds of CM Punk returning, I don't see it. I mean, it can happen. I'm never going to say never, because Ultimate Warrior came back, Bret Hart came back, so on and so forth. All these guys that you thought would never come back have come back. So he could, realistically, but I just don't see, like, I don't think 65,000 people at the Las Vegas Raiders Stadium is going to intrigue CM Punk enough to come back. Like, if CM Punk comes back at SummerSlam, what is he going to do? He's going to confront the Tribal Chief. He's going to confront Drew McIntyre, confront Bobby Lashley. Like, what is Punk going to do? And then after, in 6 months, what's he going to be doing from there? He's going to be in these horrible segments. We're going to have CM Punk's sisters on Raw. He's going to beat up his sister. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think probably with Punk, like, I'm not going to do it hypothetically. Yeah, probably something they just like Reigns, something with Rollins, and then he'd be probably sitting in Alexa's playground swearing at a doll. Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah, could you imagine Punk doing the go to sleep on the Lily doll and Alexa Bliss is crying? Like, God, man, like that's what CM Punk is going to come back for. You know? I mean, if he did come back, it would be on a part-time basis, and he would only do WrestleMania and SummerSlam, probably. And he would only feud with the elite of the elite, no pun intended, where he would feud with, like, Roman, Lashley, McIntyre, maybe Randy Orton, Edge. Like, that's probably it. AJ Styles. But, like, who else is CM Punk going to feud with? We're going to see CM Punk feuding with Bray Wyatt, where Bray Wyatt's going to be yelling at CM Punk about how CM Punk, he was in this story with Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho made fun of his father's alcoholism, and Bray Wyatt's telling him morally that was an incorrect decision, a booking decision you made. Like, what the hell is...
I will say, a Funhouse match with Bray and CM Punk would be amazing, though. I will say that. But yeah, that's a feud. That wouldn't really work. The Funhouse match would be cool, though. But yeah, Punk ain't coming back. Phil Brooks has no passion for wrestling. We move. Next, Kevin. Thank you, next. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's all I got. I know there's something you wanted to ask me, so we could kick to that.
Yeah. Okay, so Kevin, actually, there's two things. I think there's two things we can talk about. I mentioned double standards earlier. Now, when I go on wrestling Twitter, and I mean, you're pretty, Kevin. You're huge on Twitter at this point. 5,000 plus followers. Go and follow Kevin on Twitter. Anyway, back to the point. When you go on Twitter, Kevin, and the first thing you see on your timeline is Liv Morgan in revealing pictures from a photo shoot. And you go through the replies, and it's a bunch of down bad simps with hardly any social life saying some of the most just gross things about Liv Morgan and being just incels, basically. When you see that, that's okay, that's one thing. But yet, when we have Shane McMahon hosting Raw Underground, and we get 15-second glimpses of Shane with 3 women clothed doing some like dancing when there's like a pole there, that's the worst thing ever, and WWE needs to be cancelled. I don't get it.
That's the end of the world.
I don't get it. Yeah.
That's the end of the world. People are demanding that Vince McMahon go bankrupt because strippers made appearances for 30 seconds on Raw Underground. But then, like I said, Liv Morgan, like you said, I mean, Liv Morgan can post whatever she wants. She can post these bikini pictures and people can just be disgusting. They can make all these remarks of what they would do with her. God forbid if they got her alone. And
these sexual deviants. I swear to God, Kevin. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's disgusting. But then on TV, if Liv Morgan had a gimmick, because let's be honest, if Liv Morgan was in the Attitude Era, she would have been over, if you will. I'll leave that open for interpretation. So, Liv Morgan, if she came out and just decided to have like a bikini contest, and we had like Liv Morgan and, you know, Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke, and some other attractive women compete in this bikini contest, that would just be terrible. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. How could WWE do this? They're a PG company. That they want family-friendly content. That you have Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan should be focusing on her in-ring ability. Vince McMahon should showcase her in a way that she's equal to the men. And it's just the standard. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And then you have like women on the independent scene, like Thunder Rosa and Tay Conti. They're selling nudes on Patreon and like OnlyFans. That's okay. You know, people will spend $20 a month to subscribe to Tay Conti's OnlyFans. to watch a video of her barbecuing in a bikini. But God forbid she's on a bikini on AEW. It's the end of the world. It doesn't make sense. I'll never understand it. I can't even try to put a reason behind it. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't think it makes sense to a lot of people. I don't even know if people even talk about this. Like, I haven't heard that many people in the media really bring this up.
Well, because, this is just one of those things, like, we pick up and you look at the wrestling community, and I don't get it. It's like when these women are portrayed in a way that isn't, look how empowered they are, let's have a great match. When they're portrayed in a way that's not that on WWE TV, such as Eva Marie and the whole evolution thing, the line gets brought up. This is setting the women's evolution back. This is de-evolutionizing women's wrestling, which I think that whole concept is absolutely ridiculous. That is blasphemous. That is assuming that women who want to, this goes down the whole how you portray women on wrestling TV. When you say to women, the only way you're going to be portrayed on wrestling TV is an overly empowered woman who can be a great wrestler, can do everything the men can do, that's setting the evolution back. I'm sorry, not every woman wants to be that. So to pigeonhole females in that box, I think is ridiculous. Like, if Liv Morgan, hypothetically, goes up to Vince and goes, I want to do some more revealing segments on Raw, could that be sorted out? Could that be arranged? That should be encouraged. That's what she wants to do. But Kevin, how evil. Oh my God, is that Eva Marie on a car? Vince McMahon needs to go bankrupt. Damn him. How dare, this is setting the women's evolution back. Does Eva Marie want to do that? I don't care. She shouldn't be doing it. She needs to be a great wrestler who's paid her dues in the indies and wrestled great matches against other indie talents and nearly broken her neck numerous times from 360-degree spinning pile drivers in front of 15 people in an indie show. That's the only way she has indie cred. That's the only way the evolution progresses. Like, get out of here, Kevin. It's the whole thing's ridiculous. Well, if you have women portrayed in a way that's not that on TV, the evolution's set back. Shut up. Get out of here. Like, that mentality sets the evolution back, not the fact that women can portray themselves on TV. I mean, that's just one of my biggest pet peeves with the community and just wrestling in general. It's a joke.
Yeah, do you remember that segment where Alexa Bliss had that wardrobe malfunction?
Yes. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? You actually remember it. Do you remember the random great match that we saw between Natalya and Ruby Riott on that one episode of Raw in 2018? No one remembers that. We all remember that Alexa Bliss segment. We all remember the Eva Marie wardrobe malfunction segment. We all remember the Sable segments back in the Attitude. We remember this stuff. We remember Vince McMahon backstage and he's blindfolded and Tori Wilson's there. And then, he gets kicked in the nuts by Linda or whatever. He falls onto boxes and he's in pain. Like, that's stuff we remember, Kevin. We don't remember great Matt. Like, dude. Oh my God. Whatever. The mentality of people nowadays sets the evolution back. But nonetheless, go on.
It doesn't make sense. Like, I brought up the Alexa Bliss segment because that was one of the best segments of the PG era. One of the most raunchiest segments that stick out. Like, people that are going to hear me say that's one of the best segments, they're instantly going to be like, no, it wasn't, because it wasn't a great match. But for me, that's one of the best segments of like the last 5 years. It was good. Alexa Bliss in that light, I mean, that's what people want to see her as. I'd rather see that version of Alexa Bliss than her as a 12-year-old girl. Like, I can't enjoy that. But now you look at like Liv Morgan, for example. If Liv Morgan got released from WWE tomorrow, she would be making a boatload of money on OnlyFans and Patreon, selling bikini pictures and calendars and premium content and all this crap. And the same people that would be allowing her to live that lifestyle is feeding money into her, whatever she decides to do. I'm not saying that she will do this if she gets released or if she's not with WWE anymore. I'm not saying she will do that, but she could. And the same people that would be subscribing and allowing this to happen, they would be, on the other hand, freaking out if like Eva Marie has a segment where she's showing too much skin and the segment is just her talking about how beautiful she is and it's not her having a match. They'd be like, oh my God, Eva Marie's obnoxious. Oh, she should be wrestling. She should be focusing on being better in the ring. She shouldn't be talking about how she looks in a bikini. It's like, it doesn't make sense.
Why do things, I mean, this is more of a general commentary thing, but why do things have to be so one side or the other? Women have to only be empowering figures of good matches, or you can only think that, or you can only think that women have to be doing bikini contests, and stripping every week. There is Kevin, it is beyond me how wrestling cannot find a balance of that. How you cannot have the women who want to be portrayed as superhero figures and want to be the inspiring figures to little 6-year-old girls everywhere, and you can't have the women who want to be a bit more, let's use the term, revealing on WWE TV. Get eyeballs and attention from that way of doing things. How you can't just find a balance and progress in evolution, it is beyond me. It's not reflectant of women at all. Not every woman wants to be an empowered superhero. That's just false. That's cap. Kevin, I can't believe it. I really can't. And that double standard we really talked about to bring this to the table. Liv Morgan can post all this stuff, and absolutely, that's her account, 100% awesome. But you get these disgusting, dirty simps like iBase, saying all this stuff, replies, and then you get people showing up on Raw like Eva Marie, and oh my god, wrestling should die and burn the hole because they gave her a job. How dare they fire Tom Phillips but employ Eva Marie? It's like, Kevin, I don't get it. I don't know. Maybe the wrestling Twitter is not for me. It clearly is not. But yeah, I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's clearly not for you.
It's broken me, Kevin. Hopefully that rant's made for some good entertainment because my god, it's baffling. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. With that being said, subscribe to Take Conti's Patreon. Yeah, while you're at it, you might see you'll see some good work rate clips and matches and her working on her moveset. You won't see anything outside of that. It's just all about good wrestling content.
I love a moment of appreciation for Bonafide Heat Kevin here. Those tweets you do, look how great her work rate is, pal. Oh, she's so good in the ring, and there's a picture of someone in like a bikini. That is class. I love that. That's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, and then people take it the wrong way, and then they reply, and they're like, "Oh, she's so sexy." And I'm like, "Wait, whoa! I'm talking about her ability to execute a dropkick. Have you seen Tay Conti throw a dropkick on AEW Dark? I mean, she has one of the top 2 dropkicks. Like her and Randy Orton are probably the top 2 dropkicks in wrestling history, and she is not number 2. Like that. Let's be honest. Let's call it like it is, bro. Come
Oh,
on.
that's great. And yeah, I think we'll close this out. I'll ask you this question, Kevin, which realistically we could do a whole lead heat about, and we might just do so one day. But I'll ask you now, Kevin. I did a deal on this, and I'll ask you the question now. Who should dethrone Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief?
Well, the easy question is Cesaro. I mean, he's wrestled all around the world, and then he's been in WWE for 10 years. He's clocked in and out on time. He deserves to be rewarded for all of his hard work, pal.
Ha! Ha ha! You're so funny, Kevin. Who do you really think?
I mean, honestly, I don't think there's anyone out there, like in all seriousness, I don't think there's anyone out there that's worthy of taking the belt off of Roman. Because, like, realistically, if you put the belt on Rey Mysterio right now, let's just say hypothetically, they put the belt on Rey Mysterio. What the hell are they going to do with Rey Mysterio from there? You're going to have Rey Mysterio feud with Seth Rollins for another 6.5 months over the Universal title? Like, what are you going to do? You put the belt back on Rollins. What are they going to do with Rollins? They're going to have him feud with, I don't know, like, what? Wesley Blake? They have a feud with Wesley Blake because Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake are best friends. And Wesley Blake wants to get revenge on Rollins for bullying Buddy Murphy. Like, what the hell are they going to do with any of these people? Roman Reigns is like the last remnant of a superstar that we have in wrestling. And there's really nobody on his level. Like, yeah, Drew McIntyre is close, but like, he's the only guy, realistically, that I could see that you could put the belt on Roman. But then what's going to happen with Raw?
The thing with Drew, I don't know if you get this in. Mm-hmm. Drew's probably the best option as far as current day guys and just generally to beat and dethrone Reigns. But what then? Because we've seen Drew as champions. Like, okay, Drew beats heel X, Drew beats heel Y. Like, that's all it is.
Right.
And like, yes, the moment, say, WrestleMania 38, hypothetically, of Drew overcoming and dethroning Reigns, ending the 500-day reign of the Tribal God, that's going to be incredible when it happens, if it happens. But then what? That's the thing. Then what? Like, oh, The Rock needs to beat Roman Reigns. Cool. Then what? Dwayne Johnson at 51 with a packed movie schedule is going to be defending Universal title against Apollo Crews in a great match. Like where to? Well, what next, Kevin?
I mean, probably the best option would be John Cena to beat him to get his 17th title reign. That's probably the best scenario I can think of to make the Roman Reigns title reign feel meaningful. To have him be the guy that takes the fall for Cena's big 17th win in a packed arena at SummerSlam or Survivor Series or Royal Rumble, whatever the hell they do it. That would be the best case. But then where do you go with Cena? Cena's got to go off and film all these commercials and movies. So like, I guess Cena would hold it for a month and then drop it back to Roman. So he'd still wind up with Roman Reigns as a champion, even if Cena is the guy that dethrones him. Roman he'll do a Brock Lesnar in 2014, just beat Cena in 10 seconds at the next pay-per-view. And then where do you go from there with Roman? Like, realistically, Roman's probably going to be champion for like the next two to 3 years. I don't see anyone that could take the belt from him. I just don't.
Absolutely. And I mean, I guess we'll segue into this for the final conversation. So Reigns versus Cena at SummerSlam has been the big rumored match. First off, I want to say I really hope they do that. I think that'd be amazing. I want to talk to you about this really quickly. How do you think fans are going to go about that? Because obviously Cena's had this recent controversy and mini cancellation, I guess, with this whole Taiwan-China fiasco. That's happened. And Roman Reigns has been doing this amazing work for a year. So God forbid fans come back and you get arenas cheering for Reigns and booing Cena and just ruining the whole thing. I really hope that doesn't happen, but I can picture it.
No. Let me stop that right now. Let me stop that talk right now. There's going to be 75,000 people at SummerSlam if they hypothetically do Cena and Reigns. How many of those people are even going to know about the Cena-China situation? You know, how many casual fans that are buying this ticket to see John Cena's big return to wrestling going to know about that wouldn't be the case at all. I couldn't see it. I mean, it's only like a small minority of people that called for the end of Cena's career because he apologized to China. Like it's not like when Daryl Morey almost got the NBA canceled from China. It's you just can't compare the magnitude of the situations, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully, if and when that's the case, we get a seamless SummerSlam main event with Reigns and Cena in a stadium. You're the two biggest stars of wrestling in the last 15 years having this big match, and there's the Tribal Chief versus Cena hunting for 17, and it's just, that sounds so sick. Like, everything about that's dope. So hopefully they do that. Then they can do Reigns and Rock at WrestleMania in a year or two, and we can get wrestling's last true real dream matches out of the way. And then, yeah, that'd be all good. So any closing words, Kevin?
Oh, that's it for me. That's all I got. So we'll talk to you guys next week for Elite Heat. I don't know what we're going to do. Probably a post Hell in a Cell show, but it's all up in the air. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, leave us a review on Apple, Spotify, wherever the hell else you get your podcasts. And thank you all so much for listening.
Yep. Peace.